Today on the channel, we're going to change the brakes and rotors on this 2016 Jeep Renegade Trailhawk, and this process will probably work for your Jeep Renegade, depending on the years that it falls in. Change the brakes and rotors on this 2016 Jeep Renegade Trailhawk. But before we get started, if you are new to the channel, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you can stay posted when we do videos like this and work on the Renegade and some of the other builds that we got going on the channel. The first thing you want to do is to take the cap off of the brake booster underneath the hood. So let me show you where that's at. And that is right there, and you could find this right here, and we already had it taken off. Already did the other side, so I want to go through this real quick because there are some issues that not issues, but some points that came across that I think you guys should be aware of. So we're going to take you guys around the back. Already gotten the wheel taken off, which you guys can see that in another video I did on how to take the wheels off if you're not too sure on how to do that. But here is the rear brake assembly that we are looking at, and this is the stock rotor, and it's pretty well beat up. As you can see, we have all these ridges in here, and we are going to change the brake pads on this, and there is about 99,000 miles on the stock rear brake pads and the rotors. So we are going to swap them out with some better stuff than the stock stuff, which is, here's the rear brake pads, and these are Rebestis Element 3s, and this is the part number here, ET or EHT 18098, and the rotor, which I have here, which we will be opening up, and I will show you that when we get to that point. And the rotor part number, it's also a Rebestis, and this is 981835R for the rear. And as you can see here, we already have had the one installed, and we already taken the brake pads apart from the box, and these are the old ones from the other side, which we'll go and take a look at what this side looks like. But I do have the clips lined out for the next to load the caliper. But let's get into what you need to do to get your rear caliper off of this. So right here is your emergency electrical brake line, and that all you do is pop this free from this bracket, and here's the hose. And you want to pop that free from that bracket because it'll be easier to maneuver the caliper around. And there is a little spring right here that holds this bushing inside here. So you just want to make sure you don't lose that. It may pop off when you try it, and we use the screwdriver for that. But there are actually 4 bolts holding on the caliper. One is right back here, and then there's one down here on the bottom. See if I can't get that camera there. Right up in, where's that? Right up in here is where the other one is. So those 2 bolts hold on this whole unit. And this also has the electric emergency brake on it. So this is right here. You probably can't unplug this right here, but I just detached it from here rather than unplugging it all, because you don't want to remove the brake line. And then there's these 2 bolts, one right here and one down here, and that holds this assembly together. And this is where your brake pads are attached to. And the electric brakes will, when you hit the electric brake system, it will close it. So this is all an integrated system, all one and all. And You also have to take this off. That will pull your rotor off. So if you don't have to pull the rotor off, you don't have to worry about disconnecting this one, and you just have to change these. So I'm going to get to finishing taking these off, which I do have these all hand tightened or hand loose already, or loosened. So these are just hand tight, and that way it just so the process is a lot more quick. And in this way, I'm going to show you guys how to load these brake pad holders up and how to orientate your clips, because that was an important thing, and how to back your caliper in, because you do need a special toolkit, something like this, which we do not have the right foot plate for the thing. So I'm going to show you what you can do without maybe possibly having a kit like this or a kit similar to this. And we need some sockets. We're going to use a 17 and a 13 millimeter socket, and then we're also going to be using a 5 millimeter Allen, which would be for the rotor, and then some of the other tools we'll be using as a hammer, and I'll show you what that hammer's for later, because on that rotor we're going to need a hammer and a wire brush and some possibly some channel locks. So let me get you set up, and then we'll start disassembling this. Okay, on these bolts that hold the whole unit to your axle here is our 17 millimeters. So we're just going to use a 17 millimeter wrench, which you can also use I believe it's an Allen key in there, but because of the brake hoses there, you can't get the torque fitting or the torque one there. So we just use the wrench there, and then we got the one on the bottom down here. You just pop that one off, and then the top one will come off, and then your caliper should come right off. And we already have these hand loose, so this way we could move along with the video. But I'm going to take the caliper off, and here's what we are looking at, and I'll back you back out. That way you guys can get a better look at this. So here's the caliper as it comes off, and as you can see, the brake pads are pretty well worn. Like I said, there's probably about 99,000 miles on this. Since we had the vehicle, we never changed the rear. We have done the front. You guys could check that out in the playlist that I got going on this vehicle. So, and this is why you could pull these grommets away from your brackets, so this way you have a little bit more space to maneuver here. But to get this off, and here are the two bolts that are also torque fittings you can use, and they just come out. And how do I know that this probably never been changed is because of the Loctite is still on the bolts. So I'll just put these off to the side, and then once that is done, then you could take your assembly apart and pull this out here, and just leave your caliper there, or your caliper there, and here is the brake assembly and the brackets or the shims that we'll be replacing. So to prep this up, I'm going to we'll go over this first, and then we'll go and prep these up. What you want to do is get a tool similar to this, and in the kit that we have here, it does all different types of models, but it has different footprints that you could put on here. And because in this one you're supposed to put a 3-prong footprint in here to turn this as you're compressing it. So what we did was, all you're going to have to do is get a channel locks. You're going to do it in a 2-step process, and you're going to put the channel locks on here, and you're just going to turn to the right a couple turns to get this twisted down. And then once you do a couple turns, and it's because that footprint doesn't move when you press on the brakes. And all you're going to do is put this in there, and you're going to compress this down, and you'll see it go down. And you're just going to keep doing the process over again. What you want to do is get this almost to where all of this collapses in there and it's straight across. Then we'll get this again, and as you can see, we moved it down some. And we'll just keep pushing this in. Till it's tight. Back off a little bit. Pull your tool out. You can see how we have gotten this down to where it's almost straight across. So I think a couple more turns on this and we'll be all right. And we are good with this install of the brakes, of prepping the caliper. So I'm just going to put this off to the side, and then I'm going to get the other part, and we're going to go to the back of the vehicle, and I'm going to show you how to load up the pad bracket. So here's the assembly off. That you just want to make sure these move freely, and if not, you're going to have to take these off and grease them up a little bit. But this is how your brake pad assembly it comes, and your new brake pads will come with new clips, and I have these oriented to the way that we'll put them on because of the way that these are here, and I did that because we did the other side. So here is the assembly, and all to get these off, and all you're going to do is pop these off. I push them from the inside out, and as you can see, these are pretty well worn and bad. Put that in that box. And then do the other side, and you want to make sure when you're taking these off that you don't screw up the pads from the other side. And here's the sensors that will tell you if your brake pad is bad, and as you can see, we are right down to the sensor, and they go on the inside of the wheel. So this way you guys don't put the wrong pads on each side when you break your pads apart. And then here is your clips, and if you notice, your spring clips are outside here, and you have these little tabs right here. You want to put the new clips on the same way. So what I do is get this as if it's going on the vehicle, and then I'll line up my tabs because there is a right side and a wrong side to these. So you don't want to mess them up. Just pull these off. And they come off fairly easy. And then that's done. And then you want to put the new clips on, and as you can see, the new clips are somewhat similar. So you're going to put them in the same location, which you can clean all of this up if you like to. These aren't too bad. So we're just going to put these in there like so, and they just push in. And you want these facing on the outsides. And it doesn't take much to put these on. These are fairly easy, and I put these on with every new pair of brake pads because they do come in the kit. So you just use what you get in the kit. And then to put the new brake pads on, what I like to do is go from the outsides of them and in. And that's what and we did discuss that you want the sensor one on the inside, because if you used it if you use both of the outside pads, you'll have to go around and change your pads and change the one you already did. So here's the sensor on the new brake pad, and we are going to put that on the inside just the way they came off. And from these you go in sideways like this, and you just give a little twist and a push down, and you just push them in. Got it in there, and I'll just put it in there and then check my tabs on the other side, And as you can see that the brake pad doesn't pass the tab, or you don't crush the tab that way. And then repeat the process on the other side. And then your brake pad bracket is now loaded and can be ready to be reinstalled onto the rotor. But now we are going to go over and change the rotor. But this is what it's going to look like when you got everything reassembled. So let's go over and change the rotor. Okay, here's the little retaining screw that we have to take out, and we're just going to use the Allen key and hold the rotor. And this is where your hammer is going to come into play. And we'll put this off to the side so we don't lose that. And as you can see, it won't come off. So what we're going to do is, since we're not reusing this rotor, we're going to get some PB Blaster. And I'd like to thank A&A Auto Stores for running this right out to us, because we do need this. And thank you guys for that. And if you want, check everybody's link out in the description below. And we're just going to spray this. Give that a few minutes to soak in there. And then what we're going to do is get our hammer, and we are going to tap lightly around the rotor. And as you can see, all the rust is coming off of these. And then sometimes, get our caliper up out of the way here, you might have to hammer from the back side. Alright, now once the rotor's broken free, and as you can see is to why we're changing this, and this is definitely a stock rotor, and these marks are from me hammering on it, but you can see all the grooves in here and how it was rusting and pitting, and this is why we're changing it. And here's the back side, and you can see where I was sitting in here, but how it's grooved because the brake pads are so low. But then after you get this off, and we're just going to push that out to the side, and what I'm going to do is get the hub and clean all this excess rust off. Like I said, these are stock, and while I'm here, I'll check everything, make sure everything's good. But you can see how these rotors were just rusting apart. A lot of miles on them. Almost 100,000 miles on these, and it takes a little bit of finesse to get them off. Alright, so once you got it all taken apart and you got your hub here all cleaned up, then what you want to do is get your new rotor, and what I like to do is orient it, the screw area that came out, and put it there. And I always like to cross-reference to make sure that it all fits, and make sure all the holes line up correctly. And I will also reference it with the stock rotor to make sure you have the right set of rotors. And then to put this back on, just get your screw, reattach your bolt, and what this does is holds the rotor to your hub, because these have stock, or they call them lug studs. They're not, like, you don't see the studs coming out, so this way the studs are actually on the lug nuts. So to load these back up, all you're going to do is get your brake pad assembly, and here, as you can see, is where it goes in this way. So we're just going to put it in that way, and you're going to Might have to move the brake pads in a little bit further to get them to set inside there. And that's not hard to do. You just push them in a little bit. And just put it like that, and then you're going to get your two bolts that you took out to break this apart, which they also have torque settings. If you could get your torque fittings in there to use that, you could use them. But all I'm going to do is line this back up, put these back in here, get these hand tightened, and you're just going to repeat the process backwards the way you took it off. And I will snug these back up. And then once you get this all snugged up, and then you're ready to put the caliper back on your rotor, just make sure none of your lines are all twisted up. And then all you're going to do is slide this over your rotor, and then you're going to replace your two bolts that hold this into place. Once you got your bolts back in and you got your rotor all attached, there's not much to do. Like I said, you just reverse the process, and all we're going to do is put our brake line back in here, right in the approved grommet. And don't forget to put your spring back on there. And then you're going to get your attachment for your electric brake and put that back into that bracket. And then what we're going to do before we install the tire, we are going to clean it up with some brake lean. And that's pretty much it. And that's what it takes to change your rear brakes or your rear rotors on your Jeep Renegade Trailhawk. Well, I hope this video helps all you guys out in doing your own. It doesn't take long if you're first time doing it and not sure what you're doing it. Probably take you about a good half a day, maybe 3 hours by the time you gather up your tools and figure out what you need. I'm hoping this, like we said, we use some channel locks, some 13mm wrenches, sockets, 17mm, a screwdriver, a small screwdriver, and that's pretty much it. And if you're changing the rotor, you just need a little extra tool to do that. But if you guys want to see this Jeep and the 2nd Gen Ram mud truck to show truck project build that we had going on out here at Jeff's Auto Body and Customs, we will be at the 2022 4-wheel drive Jamboree in Bloomsburg, PA this year. So stop by, check us out. I'm hoping to see you there. So once again, I hope this video helps you out. Till next time, I'm Joe, driving trucks and hunting bucks is how I roll with Wicked Fabz.